Well, I thought that was going to be more eventful.
Yeah, well, which way are we going? This is the first half of extra time, is that right?
Yeah. Oh,
Just over the head of Van Persie.
Oh, come on! One goal! That's all it takes. And then we can start recording our bloody podcast.
Hey and welcome. Thanks for downloading our 7th podcast. My name's Raj and my background is in film design, media and technology.
And I'm Mike, and you may remember me as Mr. Google Apps, and nowadays working at company and community growth as I continue to scribble all over the Kiwi internet.
And you're here because you're a Kiwi that either works in or has a great passion for tech and media in New Zealand. We have another great show for you today, and later on we'll catch up with Laura Rytel from Creative HQ.
Episode 7, we're startup focused. Let's do this thing. New darlings of the Wellington startup scene, Whipsit, is off on a 1.5 million trip to Tel Aviv. Okay, it's not costing Whipsit or Grow Wellington or Callahan Innovation and others 1.5 million for the plane flight, but that's the prize at the end. The company is still in beta with their cloud-based video collaboration system. I sort of think of it as Google Docs for video, but with Wellington being the centre of film, what a great opportunity for the city and of course Whipsit. I wonder what connections the Miramar notables have with Whipsit.
Wellington's can-do attitude makes us an attractive space for global ICT. Many companies see Wellington, and in fact New Zealand, as a great place to grow capability, products and great organisations, and in most cases it's cheaper than other countries. This makes New Zealand an even more attractive prospect for VCs, innovators and people like that to come here, which is great for us too. The reason, some say, is that Wellington cultivates a collaborative community approach where other cities are still in that competing mindset.
Laura talks about that as well, doesn't she?
That's right, yes.
Excellent. Look out for that, guys. Do you believe in life after startups, though? We've said we'd be startup focused this week, especially with our great interview with Laura coming up. But is the startup world coming to an abrupt end?
No.
According to Vanessa Camones, the world is starting to change in the USA with investment money starting to dry up. Well, it never actually dries up and goes away. It goes to other places, such as staying in the pockets of the investor companies. The article is a great read, and even normally bullish Kiwi commentator and investor Ben Keeps is advising companies to be a little more circumspect with their money, as this bubble may be about to burst. But even if there is no bubble, the Record.net article should make all small startup, stay-up, survivalist company CEOs sit back and think. Be wise, people. Rogeri, why New Zealand needs a tech kingpin. Fascinating and coherent argument for New Zealand, realising how small we are, how agile that could make us, and how small changes in direction from the government could unleash the potential of the internet to us all. So Rod's article in the Herald this week talks about having a tech leader for the government. I agree that for some reason we are slow as dinosaurs when it comes to using the cloud in this country. In my days back at Waveadept, which was the first Google Cloud-focused enterprise partner here in New Zealand, quickly had me realise that the vast majority, over 95% of companies here are 20 staff or less, which you'd think would be perfect use for the cloud. But for some reason, it's just not made it out of the tech community. So my hat's off both to Rogeri for being a vocal advocate for the cloud at the highest levels in New Zealand society, and of course for its cloud-based company, Xero. They're also trying to raise the bar as well. Great blog post on there that they've got. Will cloud social media unlock SMB success? Go look at our show notes for all the links.
10 ways technology will change the world by 2025. Dementia will decline. Type 1 diabetes will be preventable. Food shortages and food price fluctuations will no longer be a problem. Electronic or electric transportation will be huge.
Electronic or electric?
Well, I'm going to go with electric.
Okay, let's do electric.
Yeah. Everything will be digitally connected. It's an interesting one. Solar will be the biggest source of energy. Biodegradable packing will be the norm. There will be a safer and healthier drugs that fight cancer. We'll create DNA maps at birth to manage disease risk. Now that's interesting. And of course, teleportation will be tested. They're not going to finish it by then, but they'll have a go. But the one that stuck out for me was everything will be digitally connected, which we're sort of on the way now. So wireless communications will dominate our everyday lives by 2025, they say. Cars, homes, appliances will be all connected, just like that Internet of Things that everyone talks about.
Yeah.
New technology will be able to store energy and serve as electrodes to deliver this hyperconnectivity. So everything's going to be wired and connected, but they're going to be wireless as well. So I don't know how that works yet.
Fair enough. Sounds like a utopian world or a dystopian world. Depends on which side of the bed you get out in the morning. Absolutely.
And they'll dictate that too, which side of the bed you get out of.
Yes. The more details of this are up in the show notes. Women's only IT tech groups. What do you think? Should we have them? This is a bit of a look forward to an interview that we have coming up with Natalie Ferguson from web design dev company Simple and Lovable. Not only does she do the work, but also blogs about a range of items from running escapades through to what it's like to be an entrepreneurial woman in New Zealand tech. And she started a meetup for like-minded women. It's at meetup.com. It's called Female Founders Exchange. And the question she poses is there a need for a gender-based group? Do we in New Zealand and in the tech industry require spaces for women to get together? There are many on Twitter that would say loudly, yes. Some of these women I respect and bow to their superior and, let's be honest, different knowledge. And others are just shouty, whiny people that see issues with every thing going and have no time for them. Look, there are Egypts in every sphere of human life. But what about Natalie's question? Look, I think, yes, every community, however it's defined, needs their safe and secret place. What do you think, Raj?
Yeah, I think that's true. Because they're misrepresented in the tech community now. You notice in the CEO level or management level, there's only a few executives that are women, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to nurture that talent and get them in there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And for some reason, most of the time, they're better than us anyway.
Yeah, look, the best people in tech are women. That's what I've always said. So when we have our interview in a number of weeks' time with Natalie, hopefully some of the listeners will have posed their questions, put their views in. So by all means, tweet us and get in touch with us however you want, and we'll raise these with Natalie.
Good time to plug the email, Mike. Just saying.
If I knew what it was, I would.
Access granted at #me.co.nz.
Perfect. Hey, look, Raj, we've got a problem.
Yeah.
We always have too many news items, and we normally do 3 good biggies, 3 smallies, but we pick up so many. So how about we just read out the headlines and then link them out into our show notes and let everyone else read them?
At their leisure.
Fantastic. So all I'm going to do now is play through. We're going to play through a whole bunch of headlines that we think you should go and look at. The next phase of smartphones. As the headline, mobile developer, make sure you know which camp you will end up in.
Tim Berners-Lee's 40 maps that explain the internet. Just had a quick look at this. It's very interesting. An awesome internet history and information in a map form, which I like. I'm an infographic guy anyway, so, you know.
Perfect. Docker, the company and the product Docker promises a standard way to package apps to run virtually anywhere. If you're a developer, go check that out.
Government ramps up ICT support for New Zealand schools. That seems to be a bit of a hot topic at the moment from both sides of the spectrum as well.
It does. Many employees won't mingle with enterprise social software. And as a person who's done knowledge management, information management, and all those sort of managements previously, I can tell you that's so true.
A lot of management there. Channel your inner entrepreneur to excel at work. So everyone's fascinated by entrepreneur success stories out there, but they forget that everyone has that ability if they can nurture it and grow it in the corporate environment. So you don't have to have a startup. You might as well have the same mentality and get something done at work that makes life interesting for you and fascinating and fun. So check that out.
What a brilliant idea. And finally, I'm sure you've all heard this one. Google orders Terminator robots not to kill founders Brin and Page. This is a real story, but of course it's got a twist. Go check out the link from the show notes. We're still building an event resource to share with you. I know, it could be the forever beater. In the meantime, this week we focus almost exclusively on Auckland events. The first one was the Gather Conference, but it's sold out. Can't believe it. Well, I can believe it. It's an excellent event. Put it into your calendar for next year. And if you don't know what it is, that's what Google was invented for. Go check out Gather Conference.
Design Assembly Pub Quiz. Wednesday, 30th of July, 6:30 at the Bluestone Room, which is in 9 to 11 Durham's Lane in Central City, is doing a design and pub quiz. Join them for an evening of graphic design, arts, culture, trivia.
Fantastic. Creative Commons meetup, the Generation Open. This is at the 9th of July at the Sky City Casino in Auckland. It's got a great lineup, so I highly recommend people go and check that out. And the link will be in our show notes. We've got the Ignition Unconference. It's a Barcamp, for those who don't know what an unconference is, for innovation in education. There it is again.
Yeah.
July the 7th and 8th at the Albany Senior High School. Go along to that conference where you will both create the agenda and then run the conference yourself.
Here you go, one for Wellington. All right, we managed to fit one in. The Web Dev Conference, 31st of July at the Michael Fowler Centre. More notes on that at wdcnz.com.
Thank you. And thanks to the Webstock guys as well. They send out a weekly email. This is excellent information in their jobs and whatever, and events. So if you're not already someone who is on the Webstock email, I go to webstock.org.nz/subscribe and get that free resource coming through to your email box.
This week we caught up with Laura from Creative HQ, where we talked innovation, startup cultures, and the community behind it, and why we need to encourage more collaboration in this space.
Right, we're sitting in another bar, and this time we're sitting in the Fork and Brewer. Thank you very much, Fork and Brewer. And we're sitting here with Laura from, well, I don't know where you're from actually, Laura. I know you're from Estonia, but where in Wellington and the tech scene that do you fit?
Right now, Creative HQ, which is a Wellington-based incubator, and also, I guess I'm tied with Lighting Lab, been mentoring and helping Sam and Dan run the show from the sidelines.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
The brains behind the operation.
I wouldn't go that far.
No, I've got the beer, you've got the coffee, fair enough. Tell us a bit about your background, Laura, and especially as how I met you originally was around the tech startup scene here in Wellington and New Zealand, and you had some excellent ideas and experiences, I suppose, from, and I said Portland before, and it's not Portland, it was... Boulder. So you've had great experience in Boulder around the tech scene, and hopefully bringing it here to New Zealand.
Yeah, so I had the advantage of working at Techstars for a couple of years, and Techstars is an accelerator program similar to Lighting Lab.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, Lighting Lab is sort of based around the Techstars model as such.
Yeah.
And so they are really good at, have been good at scaling the platform and the acceleration in US. And I was there quite early days in 2011 and 12 when we got approached by all kinds of different countries and people trying to create something like that in their own home countries. And I had the pleasure of helping organize or put together an organization called the Global Accelerator Network that Lighting Lab is now a part of. So I ended up consulting these accelerators around the globe and helping them understand what makes a quality program and how to actually add value to the startups. So Boulder also has a really, really awesome community as such. It's I've never seen anything like that. People genuinely work hand in hand. Different entrepreneurs. There is no such concept as being competitive. It's more being collaborative and everybody winning from that, which is a great lesson to have seen in real life and firsthand.
Yeah.
And,
so is Boulder a big place? Are we talking millions and millions of people?
No, it's a tiny place. It's actually way smaller than Wellington.
Oh, really?
It's 100,000 people.
Wow, okay.
And 25,000 of them are students who basically leave for summer. It's
they
a
come in
student
and
town.
go away.
Yeah.
I had for some, like the whole of
Boulder,
New Zealand.
It's big.
It's big. It's got the name Boulder. It must be big, surely.
Yeah.
So it's not stone or pebble. Yeah. Well, there you go. And then so you were there and helped set up that network of countries that came to look at that and go, we need a bit of that. That's awesome. So the network was set up to help that happen.
Yeah.
And then you got on a plane and ended up in New Zealand.
Yes, a very lovely lady who used to work at Creative HQ called Tui Tahau. Tui managed to get me over here. She built a relationship with me over 2 years, and finally convinced me to come on board. And so it is all about the people and people who champion Wellington as a place to be.
Yeah, very cool. So then you came to New Zealand, and I'm sure it was sold to you in glowing terms in Wellington. We're just on the brink of being another Boulder. And then you got here in Wellington, particularly, I suppose. That's where you came, but New Zealand.
Yeah.
What's your views on how it is? What is the reality?
It's certainly different. You guys are very much away from the rest of the world. It is an island in the middle of the ocean. Boulder is in the middle of the US, so that's a similarity. But resources are kind of further away in New Zealand, which makes it hard if you're a startup and want to go and take over the world.
Yeah.
So I think it matters a lot that more so here than anywhere else, to build strong relationships with Kiwis abroad, businesses abroad, and I mean real, genuine relationships with business leaders to help you grow out of New Zealand.
It's interesting because you hear a lot, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. Oh, the one I love is the Moxie Sessions podcast, and they talk a lot about how the internet plays and works with New Zealand, and that whole problem of being far away is often talked about as being solved. The internet has solved that for us. What's your view on that?
The internet has solved a lot of it, but I think nothing replaces human interaction.
Yeah.
So I think that's still very much a thing. And I mean, there are programs, obviously, that New Zealand has, like Kiwi Landing Pad, that helps with that.
Yeah.
I just think, Kiwi Landing Pad should also maybe be in Asia, or maybe be in some other areas, maybe in Europe, not just Silicon Valley, where everybody aims to go. So markets are all around us, and you have the benefit of being close to Asia, yet it's a very, very different world out there, and oftentimes far more difficult to approach than the US.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely, internet has solved the problem of being far away, but I think because we are here and we're a little isolated, people locally should work hand in hand a little bit more than maybe has been done before.
Okay, yeah, no, I'm with you there. I totally get that. Interesting article that we'll be talking about, or we may have talked about it actually, is from Victoria, Optimal BI.
Yes.
That she put up, I think we talked about it a weeks ago, mentioned it, which was about just an idea of trying to solve the dev, or we don't have enough devs. Yeah, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, that's right.
Yeah.
Which is that, again, reaching out and trying to not be competitive, but collaborative.
Exactly.
Do you think that's actually got any legs to stand on in Wellington and New Zealand? Do you think that will happen?
I think that'll happen. I see a lot of very positive things happening in Wellington and New Zealand as a whole. I feel like, the fact that Lighting Lab is now moving to Auckland and Christchurch is a clear indication that we're all playing in the same sandbox and we're playing well, together well. But yeah, I agree with the dev, basically the lack of people with technical skills.
Yeah.
But I think we do have a lot of very good universities around. Christchurch, Dunedin, Wellington, Auckland, Hamilton. All of those places have quality programs and quality people coming out of those programs. I think it's just a matter of the tech community working more closely together with universities and getting to know the students while they're all studying.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So maybe, there's the programs like Summer of Tech that attach students to startups.
Yeah.
There are also hackathons that we're now, or people from within the community are organizing that want to include students.
Okay.
There's programs like Dev Academy that now trying to train more and more people for the local basically work ecosystem.
Yeah.
So there's definitely things happening around that.
I guess it's going to take some time for those students to come through and actually, when they're ready to actually work.
Yeah, and I think
in the meantime, we have to look elsewhere, don't we, until they're ready. Right?
I think that's a really good point. Like, things like that take time. So I think having like a long-term view around around startups and tech community as such is an important factor to keep in mind. Nothing happens overnight. Same with startups in general, like business takes time. Usually they don't succeed or sell for billions in year one, it takes 5 to 10 years generally, even looking at Green Button and Zero and how long it's taken for them to really kick things off. So same with startup ecosystem and same with the quality people around. I think we just need to start young and grow from there.
So do you see that we're at the beginning of the journey, not halfway through? This is...
I certainly...
Compare us to Boulder. Where are we on that? If I look at them as old people who've done it, are we just coming out of our nappies, or where are we?
I think definitely we're behind. But most areas that are not within the United States are behind somewhat. Boulder, their ecosystem has been strong and growing over the last, say, 15 years. So they started really focusing on that a while back. And really have a strong network of people around who really promote Boulder as a destination and as a place to establish business at. I think we are younger. I would say that we're probably in the first 3 years space, or not 3, 5 year space. So we're still a decade behind. But I think, technology has evolved over the last decade also so significantly that we can catch up faster than before. Yet in terms of...
will we be able to catch up, or will they move forward and will we still play catch up for many years, Like you look how far ahead Korea are compared to, say, us in terms of infrastructure and all that kind of stuff.
I suppose...
So you wonder, are we still always going to be playing catch up? Or one day will it be a level playing field?
I think it's also a matter of us finding a niche, right? You don't want to be another Boulder. You don't want to be another Silicon Valley. I think Wellington and New Zealand should be Wellington or New Zealand in general. And you have film industry. There's that you can play, and that could be a niche. There's a lot of accounting software around and point of sale systems. So maybe
there are POS ones. Yes, there are.
So maybe that's a niche in terms of you really understanding it, because you have the second-time entrepreneurs coming out of these companies. You have the recycled capital coming out of these companies. And that's an important know-how and experience to have in a city, and you have quite a lot of that. So I think it's a matter of Wellington discovering or having a personality, identity. And that's something to just think about.
That's a fascinating concept.
We're still trying to be somebody else.
What's our own voice? What's our own identity? Well, it's hipster, obviously.
Obviously.
Craft beer
and since accounting isn't, sexy, maybe that's a good thing.
Well, one of the stories I heard Rod years ago talk about was it. Make accounting the thing that people said, I will want to do that, as opposed to, I don't want to do that. There's a big story the backstory behind why Zero existed, involves his wife. The point around Wellington, are you focused on Wellington per se? You just said that Lightning Lab is going to be moving. Lightning Lab is moving around. Do you see that Wellington, Auckland, Christchurch, Dunedin, all the main centres, are they different in the way that they approach startups? I'm trying to that voice of Wellington that we may or may not have. Does Auckland have a voice, for instance, or does Christchurch have its own voice?
So I don't know, maybe to answer that in depth, because I've only been in New Zealand for a year. But from what I know is, from what I've heard from people and visiting those places, and the impression I get from that is Dunedin, for example, has a very, very strong university. Some of the great technologists and also startups are coming out of Dunedin, but they move elsewhere because apparently people leave Dunedin because there's nothing else to do than besides the uni. And that's a sad thing, and I wish they really leverage that more. In terms of Christchurch is very active. Their community is actually incredibly active after the earthquakes. with the Epic Centre and now Lighting Lab moving in, but also the University of Canterbury entrepreneurial club there, run by students, is very active. And what I've noticed is there's more hardware companies coming out of Christchurch.
Oh, okay. Physically, things you can touch.
Exactly. So that might potentially be their niche.
Yeah.
Whereas I guess Auckland would be more for business, telecom, financial.
The boring stuff. Yeah. No, don't have to
Say
agree with
boring,
it.
no.
I said it. It's okay.
But yeah, they probably have more of that going on. Wellington has the government.
The boring stuff.
The boring stuff. But government that, from what I'm also gathering and from your talks with Stephen last week, is really trying to innovate internally, which is a great indication, and also opens hopefully more gates for local small businesses to actually get involved and help them innovate.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully,
yes.
And Wellington has definitely as you said, the hipster thing going for it. Microbreweries, cool place to hang out.
Yeah.
It's a great place to live, and I think, so is Queenstown, but Queenstown doesn't yet, at least, have the tech scene that we already have. Mm-hmm. So I think in terms of moving to a place where people actually want to spend their time and lives. Wellington has that going for it. And I think, high tech capital initiative by Grow Wellington and is again a really good way to promote the city as a destination.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm actually running an event series. It's a meetup group called Startup Garage. So
we talked about you.
Yeah.
The other day. Yes.
Woohoo!
That was you.
I'm famous.
I did not know. The Crick HQ one.
Yes.
You talked about.
The Crick HQ is coming up, and 2 weeks ago we had our first Startup Open event with Snapper.
Yeah.
So I decided that you usually see the CEOs of those companies talk at a conference, but they feel unapproachable. And if they actually open their doors wider to the community, get some love from the people, but also be more transparent around what they're doing, and hopefully, by getting some outsiders into their offices and sharing some good advice and thoughts, they also manage to find talent to hire. So it serves both ends.
Yep.
But for most of those people, I don't know everybody either, and by just cold emailing, people are actually very, very responsive. So again, ask for help, and ask and you shall receive.
So what's it called? Meetup. So it's meetup.com/Startup
Garage.
Startup Garage. Oh, excellent. And where would people find you then when they want to now get in touch and say, "Oh, Laura, can you help me?"
Easiest way is a website called builtinwellington.com. It's something I set up. The reason I set it up was because there are so many of those meetups, and I wanted to go everywhere, and there wasn't one single calendar to rule them all. So on that website, there's actually quite a useful calendar with all of the Wellington startup and tech events.
Yep.
So if you're interested, check that out. My email address is all over that site, so feel free to contact me anytime.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Laura. What a fantastic interview. And Laura is such an open and welcoming person with both a depth of experience and insightful brain that I would heartily encourage startups to get in touch with her. Oh, and don't forget New Zealand's first education-focused startup weekend that Laura's involved with. That's weekend of August 29th at Massey University in Mount Cook in Wellington. Go to wellington.startupweekend.org for the details there. And that's us for this week. My call to action is get amongst it, people. And get out there. All the tech workers in New Zealand, there's about 60,000 of us, is to echo Laura's advice and get out of the office pods and get along to the myriad of events happening around the country.
And as always, don't take our jibber-jabber as gospel. Get all the links to the stories that we reference in our show notes. All the notes are in one place and linked from the #me post when the podcast goes live, on Tuesdays mainly, or you can just Google them, and then we've got great SEO on that, so it's working well.
Good on you, Raj. Look on Twitter for me at Mirrorman Mike, and for Raj is at NZRaj. Of course, follow the podcast at #RadioNZ on Twitter, and use the hashtag #AccessGranted. And if you really want to go old school, you can email us on accessgranted at #me.co.nz. And for more hashtag goodness, go to the website #me.co.nz.
Thanks for your time, and see you next Tuesday with the Kiwi Tech News for those who make the computers do what they do.
#me.co.nz